Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to a new Spread This Witches broadcast. We have not seen you for the longest time. We've had a big break because we're all really fucking busy. And I've got to say that I'm stoked to be back with my soul siblings. Can you say, please, hello, Allorah and Chase?
Hey.
Hello.
And we have two very special guests here, one from the land down under with me and the other from a little place called Cyprus. She's up very early. Would you like to say hello, Nina and Owlvine?
Hello.
Hi.
So we have got a tasty little broadcast for you today. What we thought we would do to sort of like just warm ourselves up a little bit after such a long break is to talk a little bit about passion projects, passion pursuits. And this is in context to divination, to spiritual practices and things of the sort. And so what we've done is we have sort of tapped on the digital shoulder of a couple of beautiful people, Owlvine and Nina, have responded. And we've asked if they're in the middle of learning a particular divinatory modality and if they would mind sharing, because when we are learning something, when we are in the process of learning something, we are so enthusiastic about it, and we can speak with so much passion because we have that fire and that drive coursing through us at that very moment in time. This is not from a professional perspective. This is from somebody who is in that hunting phase, who is pursuing that goal, who is, researching and who's really delving deep, and who is doing so in a self-paced fashion to discover the intricacies of some of the most beautiful divinatory modalities that are out there. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we move on to all the juicy bits and pieces, we have to do a little bit of news. Now, it would be remiss of me to say that I don't have any. I'm joking. I have a little bit of news, and I'm just going to kick it off, and then I'm going to go over to Allorah, and then Allorah is going to throw it over to Chase, and then the girls in between, Nina and Owlvine, they're going to be able to share a little something or nothing at all, but we'll have a look and see what people have. So the first thing that I would like to say is that the beautiful Chris Ann Donnelly is in fact creating a tarot deck. Now, if you don't know who Chris Ann Donnelly is, she is the creator of the Sacred Creators Oracle, which is the bomb. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's the best finishing deck. It's the best motivational deck. It's the best journal prompt deck. It's just the best. It's the best. And it's beautifully made. The book is intense. She has woven tarot into that book. And now she's decided to create a tarot deck. And she is herself drawing out all of those tarot images, which is absolutely phenomenal. So go and check her out on Instagram or on Facebook. She is all over the place. She really is the most beautiful soul with the brightest light and so encouraging. And she just deserves so much wonderful love and support for anything that she does, because she's really one of those really good people. Aside from that, Burnstone went up for its second round of pre-orders, which I'm really excited about. And I'm blogging again. That's about all I've got as far as news go. So I'm going to give it to Allorah. Allorah, your news, please.
Okie doke. I will take it from here. So I don't really have any news in the way of decks and stuff like that, because STW has kind of been at the forefront of my mind and what's going to occur with us over the next couple of months. So interestingly enough, we are going to hopefully start working on our projects after the first of the year. And we're not keeping a schedule till the end of the year. So basically, if we have time, we're going to throw out an episode. And then once the new year starts, we're going to really start back on our deck and things like that. Side note, I just realized this. So I don't have a school schedule yet, and I'm going to be in Avalon's wonderful country for next semester. So if I happen to have class at 10:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, I can't broadcast on our regular time. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't even know if I get to pick my classes. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyways, what else is happening with us? We have put up some new blog posts on the STW blog. And I wanted to, Chase doesn't even know this yet, so this will be a surprise to him too. But I talked to Avalon about this. We, with the publishing house that we're trying to accomplish, we asked Natalie, the beautiful Natalie, the Canadian beautiful Natalie, she gave us she gave Avalon some constructive criticism, and then I saw what she did there, and then I asked her to give me some, and I think that she's really, really great at it, and I know that she used to do some editing work, and so when the publishing house gets going on the writing side of things, Natalie will lovingly help us with some editing and submissions and things like that. So really excited that she's going to join us. Yes, hashtag Canadian. Way to go, Natalie. All right, Chase, your turn.
All right. Well, I feel like the last 5 news segments, all I've talked about is myself, but I'm going to talk about myself some more. So, congratulations. So my deck is up and running. The whole process is going, and we are in the creation process, Christina and I, and Red Earth rallies are up and going, and it's all happening. It's this crazy, it's a whirlwind right now. And so if you have been catching up with us in the Red Earth rallies and the creation process, thank you guys so much for your support. And I could say it every single day and feel really inadequate when it comes to getting your support for my project. Getting everything together and putting myself out there as far as, and I can speak for Christina as well, putting ourselves out there in this project, it just leaves us in a very raw place. And, because we're putting ourselves out there, this is our soul that we are bearing for you guys. And, the fact that you just picked us up and supported us and carried us so well, and I'm not going to get emotional, I swear. But it has just been, the lack of a better word to bring it back to my lingo, the dopest. I get asked about it every single day by somebody who is just genuinely interested, and I get somebody every day that will go onto the Red Earth Rally video or onto the Facebook page. It's a Facebook page, not a group. We had that conversation. It's not a group. I apologize. I didn't make a group. I made a page. Inside joke if you were there.
Should be a group.
Whatever. And so, but everybody, I have had at least a comment every single day of somebody being like, dude, I'm already sold, I'm buying this. And just to hear that when we're this early into the project is it is mind blowing, and it is just leaves me absolutely speechless. So thank you guys so much for that. And look forward to more Red Earth rallies and much more cards. Now that we're finally starting, in the process, we're in a flow. So cards are coming out on a regular basis, and we're sketching and we're drawing and we're writing up meanings, and we're getting really what the package we want it to all look like once it's all said and done. And so again, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you for that. And what else did I have? I had something else. What did I have? Nope, I guess that was it. Just kidding.
I don't know, but can I just say that who wouldn't love to have a deck by Wolverine? That's all I'm saying. Hold up your cup. Please hold up your cup. Do it. Yes.
Ta-da. Ta-da. I just felt it appropriate. I could have used the red cup, but, I just felt it very appropriate. So here it is. Drinking the tea out of my Wolvie cup, all right? But that's all I got. Back to you.
All right. So how about I hand it over to not Allorah, sorry. I'm just so used to saying Allorah. She's the center of my universe at the moment. How about we hand over to Owlvine? Yes. And Owlvine has basically completed, in part, I guess, quite a big project. Would you like to tell us about the project that you have completed?
Yes, I have. So I've written a course, and oh my goodness, it was one of those things that just took over my life for at least several weeks and was just my living and breathing. But I finally got that done, which is really exciting. So I studied arts therapy a few years ago, and I thought to to put it into some kind of spiritual course. So I've done that. So it's three sessions or 3 weeks, and that's over on efwitchacademy.com. And I'm so excited to have done that. Like, it's something that I always thought about doing. And then, you know, Crimson Fire came to me and said, you need to do it now. And I was like, okay. And so that's done. So we've got a few people in there now, which is really exciting. And yeah, there'll be more coming from me in the future, I'm sure. But for now, that's my little baby that's out there in the world. So it's very exciting.
Exciting indeed. And I know that you have sneakily been like hinting to further amazing works behind the scenes. So I'm sure we're all very excited to hear that. Such a tease. Such a tease.
I love it.
She helps it. Well, that's wonderful, and I love seeing that you're collaborating with the beautiful Crimson Fire, who is a formidable creative force in her own right. And congratulations to the Coven of the Eternal Flame, or the Eternal Flame Coven as it is, for launching this online academy, because that is a pretty big fucking deal. So big love to those out there. Now we have Nina, Nina, are you a YouTuber? Are you not a YouTuber? I think
I am a
story
YouTuber.
You are a YouTuber, right. Fabulous. Now, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you're working on at this moment in time, if you're working on anything specific?
Well, hi, I'm Nina. I am the newbie witch on the block, I guess, as Allorah rightfully put. And I'm also a newbie YouTuber. I've kind of, it's the beautiful witches on YouTube who kind of inspired me to do the same and kind of put my beginner journey onto the World Wide Web, I guess. I'm not working on anything specific at the moment, at least not that I can think of, because it is 4:30 a.m. in the morning where I am. Yeah, and so that's me. Hi.
And bravo to
That's
you,
awesome.
because good God, like, who gets up that early to do this with us? That's amazing.
I have this is the only time I am off, so I'm like, let's live vicariously and just wake up at whatever time in the morning.
I'm going to ask Nina, you look like you're sitting in a yurt.
I am.
You just made her life. You don't even know how badly she wants to live in one.
So I actually don't
in a heartbeat if it wasn't so fucking hot up here, but it is, and I'm just not going to do that to myself. But it's there for when I move to the misty areas of Australia. Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't actually live in a yurt, so I'm away on a like 3-day anniversary getaway kind of thing, and we always we went last year to stay in a yurt, and I fell in love, so we're like, okay, we're coming back every year, and so yeah. And it's been thunderstorming like crazy today, so hopefully it won't start again, and yeah, you won't be able to hear me, but yeah, I thought the yurt was gonna fly away at one point. Yeah, it was bad.
That's perfect. It's good to know that they're somewhat waterproof, so just testing it out through you there. So that helps my decision making personally. Right, folks, so we have a lady in Cyprus on a yurt, we have a Melbourneite witch, we have two, would you call yourself Southerners? You're both in the South, aren't you? No? Yes? No? Allorah Chase, where are you based in like directionally speaking in the US?
Yeah, so I'm in the American South, and Chase is in the American Midwest. Yeah.
All right.
Like the butthole of the Midwest. I don't want to brag.
Armpit. Armpit.
Fabulous. Basically, the point was that we are spread out far and wide, and we have come together to talk about a delicious subject, and that delicious subject is divination. So I'm going to let everybody speak a little bit about their personal understanding of divination, because I think that that's a great way to start. And then I've pulled up a Wikipedia page because I am so prepared, and therein lies a literal alphabetic list of methods of divination. So I want to get to that in a minute. But how about Allorah? No, how about Owlvine? You begin, because Owlvine does have limited time with us today. She has to go and pick her little one up at the school. So I would like for her to speak on her understanding of divination. What does divination look like, feel like, and mean to you, using your own words, please?
Okay, the pressure's on. First one up. So, divination to me is, I suppose, getting a feel for energy around. You know, my understanding in the beginning was of kind of reading the future. But I mean, the future is always changing, and with other people involved, you know, like our lives aren't just us singularly. It's, you know, everyone around us too. So all of other people's energies are always influencing what's happening in our own life as well. So there's no set future path. Divination can really help with making decisions, or just understanding things that are going on in a moment. And that's kind of how I use it. I use it for now to help me with my next steps. Divination, like I do use astrology, which we're going to be talking about today. However, I don't read astrologically for myself yet, because I'm learning. But often I will do it with just nature around me. That's one of probably my preferred methods of self-divination, I suppose. You know, having questions, or, you know, just feeling out the energies, and then and seeing what's around me, you know, the spiders that scuttle past, or the birds flying in different formations, or clouds, or, you know, whatever it is. So yeah, that's kind of divination for me.
That's perfect. That was a really great descriptive of divination through your eyes. And I think that that's something that really resonates with a lot of earth-centric practitioners, this idea of omen reading, of reading the world. Like, if something sporadic enters your life, it could be something totally mundane, it could be something totally simple, like a little spider or three birds up on an electrical wire. And for some reason, a feeling just comes over you, and that feeling then is, you know, it follows a thought, an idea, and it comes from nowhere, and it unravels so naturally. And if you're the type of person that pays attention to your feelings and is sensitive enough and understanding enough to really pursue that thought process, then a lot of beautiful revelations can take place thereafter. So with that said, how about we go to Nina in the yurt, aka my perfect home, and have her talk about her understanding of divination, please.
Okay, so to me, divination is kind of the process of connecting to, I guess, the universal whole that sends us messages through different methods. That could be, like you said, the spider that is in the corner of the room. It could be the shape in the cloud. It can even be seeing 11:11 on the clock. That is a form of divination to me. I see divination can be kind of you can also see what subconscious patterns, I guess, that we choose that have a most likely outcome, and they help us be able to see if we change that outcome, that if we change those subconscious inputs, then we're able to change the outcomes that come from letting. And I see divination working a lot with the subconscious mind, with through metaphors and image and feelings, and that's basically how I see divination.
Oh, well, that was very beautifully put. That was very beautifully put. Yes, because there is that aspect of subconscious response and the subconscious mind, the higher self, as some might put it, the spirit guide, as some others might put it, deity, God, the divine force, flow, whatever you'd like to put it, divine inspiration, Arwen, if you're druidic, or, you know, Celtic in your processes. So there is definitely this idea that there is a little something that goes beyond just the self. And there is this openness thereafter to, you know, to interpret what that something extra might be. And so everyone's got a name for it. Because as we are engaging in divination, there are moments where the feeling that flows through, that sensation, it's electric. It electrifies the body. It lifts the hairs on the body and arms and legs, and everything becomes a little bit tingly, and you know that there's something a little more going on there. So how about we go to Chase, and then Allorah, you're bringing up the rear.
So
no jokes.
No jokes. No jokes. Divination for me, I think the two key words that swim through my head when it comes to divination is conversation and it is understanding. I think that the biggest part of divination is having a conversation with energy, because at the end of the day, we are all a single conscious line of energy. We are all connected through the energy that we share, the words that we say, the things that we do, you know, how we interact with people, how we interact with Mother Earth, how we interact with Father Sky. You know, we are all connected, and we're connected to our ancestors. We're connected to the past. We're connected to the future. And so, you know, there are forces that are beyond us, and I hate the word forces. It sounds like I'm talking about Star Wars, but there is energy, and there is energy. What's the word I'm trying to say? There are things bigger than us that are always guiding us and trying to connect with us and communicate with us, and those messages can be left anywhere. Again, like you know, it's already been said. You know, it could be in the way that animals move in your life. It could be the shape of the clouds. It could be the raindrops falling on your windshield when it rains. You know, they're always there, and it's just up to us to leave ourselves open enough to have that conversation. We get so closed off in this life because we get so focused on what we want, and the only conversations that we hear are the ones that we want to hear. And you know, those aren't where in our answers lie. It is in the conversations that maybe we don't want to have, and in the conversations that we're not necessarily open to and we're listening to. So it is super important, you know, to connect in a way that is beyond us, and to live life in a way that is beyond us, and to just be open to the idea that there's so much more out there. And you know, the best way to connect with that, and the best form to connect with that, is through divination.
That's perfect. And I do like what you just said then. It's about the conversations that we don't always want to have. And that to me is an idea that brushes up against the concept of the paranormal, you know. And I don't really want to elaborate too much beyond that, but we've all heard a story from a friend of a friend, or from someone that, you know, someone that we know, that when they were young, they could do something unique and they didn't like it. It was scary, and they blocked it, grew up, and went on with their lives. But now at an adult age, they come back and go, well, when I was younger, I could do this. And, you know, and it is about that scare. There's a little bit of fear sometimes when divination comes into being, because there's a little bit of paranormal. Now, you might call it paranormal, or you might call it something else. I personally like to call it magic, but paranormal seems to work on a much larger scale. People tend to understand what that is. But yeah, there is a beautiful little something extra there. Like I was saying, a beautiful little something extra. And it is a little bit, could be a little bit of fear there. Could be a little bit of, I don't want to look. I don't want to see.
Right.
Is that a ghost to the edge of the room?
Right. Fear is a really powerful energy. And, you know, fear is there for a reason. And it's good to call it out and to name it, because it does lead to an air of caution. We get fear when we know we're hitting something that is bigger than us. And so we have to use fear the way that it is intended. Unfortunately for today, fear has been really, really, really abused and used in really bad ways, mainly by mainstream religions and politicians. And they really like to use fear, and doctors, and a lot of everybody uses fear in a lot of wrong ways. And I wish that we could get back to the core roots of why we have that feeling of fear, and, you know, tap back into that more what's the word, primordial, or that, you know, why we feel it in the first place. So
yeah, right on. That's a thing. Yeah, that is a thing. I think fear is a great inhibitor of progress and of flow, and this is why intuition for me, one of the things that I really love to do when I'm working with other people, is finding little keys that will help them unlock their intuitive faculties. the ones that they have themselves locked. They have themselves, through interactions that they have had, they have locked that, whether it be through perpetual feeling and that desire of wanting to be safe and feeling intimidated and just wanting to close off and just be in a little cocoon and be quite safe and, you know, go a little bit more insular. And yeah, so there's a little bit of an issue with intuition, I find, especially in women. I would say women my age, actually. There's a lot of women my age. I'm nearing my 40s, and I have conversations with women my age all the time about how they wish they could rely on this extra little something that they were given. They feel like they're fooled in thinking that they were told they had intuition, but they can't seem to find it, locate it. They've lost it somehow. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing anyway. Something to talk about. And then we've got Allorah. Allorah, bring it on through.
Okay, so I agree with everything that was said, so I'm not going to repeat any of that. But there is a couple things I wanted to point out for myself. So all of what was said is true, and I am a reader of the world in signs and omens and things like that. But so this is where it gets a little. I'm very hard-headed, and I'm very skeptical at times, and so for things to, aside from consciously sitting down with the intention in mind of reading my cards or reading the energies or having certain feelings just out of the blue, things like that, synchronicities, aside from that stuff, when signs and omens come to me, they have to come in multiple numbers. Like if it's just if just one random thing happens, like I don't pay no mind to it. But it's when things continue to happen, and basically there has to be a pattern. I have to be able to connect the dots, if so to speak. Now, by the same token, with that in mind, just because I make a grilled cheese and it has a burn pattern that looks like an angel, like I'm not going to be like, holy shit, it is Archangel Michael. He is in my grilled cheese or my, you know what I mean? Like no, like sometimes people just take it too far, and I'm like, dude, it's a burn mark in your fucking toast. Like just scrape that. No, that's not, nobody's talking to you. Like just wait, see if there's a pattern. Maybe you're right, but I don't know. I guess that's all I wanted to add, because I agreed with everything that you guys said.
I remember the eBay listing. That's a pretty famous one, isn't it? It went for a bit of money, as far as I know. All right. Well, I think they've got some really great descriptives there, and as you can see, there are some differences in views and then some similarities in view, but I think you'll find the similarities are far more present as far as divination goes. So for me personally, divination can be future sight. It can be tapping into the divine flow to assist in uncovering a pattern or to find a direction. It can be a way of connecting to the higher self, to my deity, to source. It can be a plethora of things, and that idea is so freeing to me. That idea is so liberating that when I go to my charms, for instance, and I cast my charms, I'm so open when I do so. I'm so open. I have to make sure that my feet, both of them, I have a little stool under my table. I make a point of putting my feet flat on the ground because I might float away in that little situation. So a lot of grounding is essential for me personally for divination. And I must say that I too am a skeptic. If somebody walks up to me and says, this happened, or if I see a this, I'm going to be a little bit more I need a little something extra. I need a little something extra. Like salads are not made just of lettuce. So I need a little something extra. I need some, chopped up cucumber, a little dressing, some garlic, garnish or two. I need a little something extra. I need the salad of experience, essentially. So, and I swear I'm not hungry. That was just the best analogy I could find in that moment.
Food references all day. Food all day. Bring it.
Right, so what I've got here is, in fact, I encourage anyone of you guys in the panel and anyone watching at the moment, if you can pull up this Wikipedia divination link. It's easy. Type divination, types of divination, methods of divination, whatever you feel like, type that into your web browser and see where it takes you. Find that Wikipedia link and then just have a look for yourself at the absolute impressive list of divination skills and modalities that are out there. We have it alphabetically. Some of these things I have never even heard of. Some of these things I know all too well, and some of these things I recognize only after I've read the description because I know it by a different name. So is there anything there that you see that sort of really jumps out at you as something that would really genuinely fascinate you, something that you would like to learn more about? Has something tickled your fancy when you looked at that list? And I encourage you that to have a look very closely at those descriptives to figure out how it makes you feel. And if you're brave enough to maybe start to pursue it a little bit more aggressively, a little bit more actively. And so I've got lots of things.
Hey, Avalon.
Yeah.
Remember to remind me towards the end of the broadcast. I also want to address some ridiculous forms of divination that I have seen as of late that I'm like, this is a form of divination? Like, what? Like, I'm talking anatomy related, and I'm like, nah. Like, no.
Right, so we're gonna have a fool's diviner session towards the end, and I've just named it. Go with it. And that should cap off our little segment nicely. And so if you're looking at that list, and I encourage you to please look at it because it helps make my point. I can't read however many hundreds of names out there, but basically there's at least 30 per letter in the alphabet. Well, at least in A, there's about 30, if not more. So there's a lot out there. And yet we here in the Western world only hear about a tiny fraction, maybe 10, maybe 15 tops. We only hear about 15. Where do these other people live? Where do these dust readers and entrail readers and, where do they live? Like, where are they found? Where are they located? What are they doing? I want to talk to someone. I want to talk to them all, really, if I get the opportunity, but that would be really fun. Anyways, that aside, and I could be foolish all day, I do have Owlvine here and I do have Nina here. And like I said, the reason why we asked these two beautiful people to come on is because they are in the middle of a pursuit of knowledge, and the knowledge revolves around divination. And like I said, when you are in the middle of learning something, when it is relatively new to you and you're in the middle of learning it, the drive that you have to really seek out further information and a deeper understanding is so vast. It's so big. It's so powerful. And so let's go with Owlvine first, because she does have to pick her little one up, like I said. So Owlvine is pursuing at this very moment in time astrology. And astrology has many nooks and crannies to it. It's got many layers. And I'm going to hand over to Owlvine. And Owlvine, would you please talk to us about how you feel about astrology, if astrology aligns with this concept of divination that you have, and perhaps some resources and some little tips to help people to sink that knowledge in a little bit better, because any form of divination, astrology especially, there's volumes of text on astrology, and flicking through all of that information to find the juicy center can be quite taxing. And sometimes that's even the reason why people don't pursue it anymore. I myself have had a few cracks at it, and I just keep recoiling, going, oh, that's too big. That's too big. I already got tarot. That's really big. I don't know if I can go there with this other really big thing, right? So tell us all about it. Tell us, share your passion with us, inspire us, do your thing, do your witch thing.
Okay. So I love astrology, and you're right, it is one of those huge subjects, and it's something that I was interested in for a while before I bothered to start going into it because I was just like, I don't know, like my head, like I haven't studied for a few years, you know, I've been out of school for a while and it's a lot of maths and angles and things. But what got me interested in it was actually listening to Arwen Lynch. So she does the taroscopes every week on her channel. And about horoscopes, and I'd read them sometimes, but kind of think this is a bit ridiculous. I could read them all and apply them all to me, you know. So I kind of thought astrology, whatever. But after listening to her, and she was like encouraging people to look up their sun, moon, and rising signs, to listen to all three of what she was sharing to get a better all-round energy. And when I did that, things really clicked for me, and that's when I started. Like I learned my big three, you know, the sun, moon, and rising sign. Just know our sun signs, like that's kind of the generally known thing. A lot of people don't know anything else other than that. Yeah, and when I learned those things, so I always had this thing with myself. I was like, because I knew I was a Leo, but everything I read about Leo, I'm like, I'm so not a Leo. Like, this isn't true. This is not a thing. And again, after listening to Arwen, I kind of went, and started looking in, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I am a little bit of a Leo. And it was like this shadow side of myself that I'd stomped down, because I was always taught, you know, that kind of shining and all this kind of thing is like, it's not a good thing. And when I stepped into that, like even just knowing that tiny little bit about astrology and stepping into more of the idea of Leo, my entire world opened up. And like, I've it's led me to where I am now, and like I've never been so happy in my entire life as I am right now. You know, I've got plenty of room to go and the journey goes on, but for the first time in my life, I'm expressing myself. So this is something that astrology brought me, you know, like being able to look at my chart and see that little photograph of myself when I was born, if you will, and the energies that were around me at that time, and therefore are within me. Like that's just opened up my entire world. And yeah, it's incredible. So it's been maybe about a year I've slowly been looking into it, and it's so complex. Like the more you learn about astrology, the more you realize there's things that you don't know. You know, there's just so much to it, but that's the beautiful thing about it for me. Like every time I look at my chart, every time I learn something new, my world opens up a little bit more, and I gain further understanding. So in terms of a divination tool, I watch other people for their takes on the energies around any given week or day or whatever. And I'll mention those soon because there's some really wonderful people. But mostly at the moment for myself, I'm using it to grow further into myself. So to further understand myself. And I've actually just started looking at my transit chart this year. So that is each birthday, as you go on, there is a transit chart. So whatever the chart is that day on your birthday is kind of the energy that will be for the next year for you. So even looking there and going, okay, like what are some things that are coming up this year? And I'm already seeing them, you know. And it's just amazing. Like one of my friends has recently got into astrology as well, which is just amazing to have someone to talk to about it. And, you know, we always talk about it, and just the amount of understanding that is there, you know, like when you look at it and you go, oh, this thing about myself, like it's almost a really wonderful compass to kind of point you in a direction. And a lot of my shadows I have seen within my chart, and I can then work on or go, oh, okay, like this is what's going on. I finally understand now. So it's been really, really powerful for that. So I do have some resources which I will share, just the books that I've started off with, because there are so many out there and some of them are very confusing. One I really, really like is this tome. It's Parker's Astrology by Julia and Derek Parker. And it's got, I don't know, all the things in there, right? So you just go through, and I don't read it page cover to cover, but just as something comes up, you know, I'll go through and have a look. So for example, you know, I might look at where Mars is in my chart and go, okay, what does that mean? and I'll look at that and go, okay, it's in a certain house. Like, what does that mean? And, you know, all these layers start to build up, and the understanding grows. So that's really powerful too. And another one that I really like is The Inner Sky by Stephen Forrest. This one's good. It's quite down to earth. You know, he's quite practical in what he says. So it's probably for someone who has a little bit of an understanding about astrology first. However, this was my very first astrology book. And I find that just being around people who are talking astrology helps to slowly build understanding. So when they're using all the terms and you're like, I have no idea what this person is saying, like it's a whole nother language. But when you immerse yourself into that, understanding does grow. So one of my favorite people to watch is Kaipacha Lesja. I think his last name is Lesja. And he does a paleo report every 2 weeks, I believe it is. And he's here on YouTube. And when I first started watching him, I was like, I don't know what this guy is on about. Like, I don't know what he's saying. But he gives a breakdown then, you know, he'll say all the aspects and everything that's going on in the sky. And then he'll say, this is what it all means. So people like that who going on and also say the different astrological terms, you slowly gain more of an understanding. So I've really just begun with my own chart because, well, I am a Leo and I'm interested in myself. So that's exciting to me, you know, to look into. So yes, and another one that I wanted to mention is KV, who is on aquariusnation.com, and she's incredible. She has a sign up newsletter. So I'm signed up to that, and you get a little something every day to your email inbox. And that again is just a breakdown of the energies and what's going on. And I just find like almost every day it's nail on the head. So with her, sometimes I'll get them first thing in the morning. Sometimes it'll be later in the afternoon. But whenever it is, I read it, I open it and I go, oh my God, this is like bang on exactly what is going on today. So I find that really fascinating, you know, that I don't know how astrology works. And I have these conversations with my husband because he's very logical, very like, he's open to being convinced, but he's not convinced yet by astrology. You know, he's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, look, I don't get it either, but somehow it works. Like somehow with the sun being here and Mars over here and this happening, like this is what it is. And I don't know, it just is, you know, it's that blueprint in the sky. And it works. So yeah, I don't know. I love astrology. I find it so exciting. I love to talk about it. I love to hear about people's charts and what their impression of their, you know, main signs are and the other things going on. So I'm loving learning about it. And I've talked a lot. So I hope that answered the questions.
Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect. And we have a request for you, Owlvine, to please, if you feel comfortable doing so, disclosing your big three. There was a few people guessing in the chat going, is her rising a moon?
So I'm a Leo sun, a Leo moon, and Cancer rising.
Ooh. That's so like water and fire there.
Yeah. Yep.
You must be a very steamy person.
I am. Well, I am now. This is the interesting thing is, my fire was like out, you know, like I said, I was always discouraged from my fire side. And then learning astrology again, I was like, oh, there's all this fire here. And then particularly working with Crimson Fire, right, who was also a big fire sign. She was like, dude, like this fire's got to start up again. And since then, like, just transformation and all the fire, and it's amazing. And steam.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And Owlvine, before I move on to Nina here, can you tell me how long you've sort of been pursuing? And I know that we go through stages, like we discussed that, you know, you go a little bit forward, a little bit back. But when did you really just go, I'm going to sink my teeth into this subject and I'm not letting go this time? When did you feel it was a little bit different for you? And when did you feel like you really sat down and immersed yourself to the point where you've kept on going now and so on?
It was probably a couple of months ago. Like it was about a year ago I started, but that was like, again, with just the big three and going, ooh, okay. And I'd like to, but huge. So it was probably a few months ago that I really went in and I was like, you know what? Like this is something that I really, really want to learn. So it hasn't been very long.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And I do recall seeing a video of you, and that was from KV. It's KV, and you ordered a ginormous book of you. I think you called it the Book of You, was it?
Yes, the Self Bible. Yes. There it is.
Bible. And she took like 9 months to create that, didn't she?
Yeah, so usually it's 5 to 6, but she was back ordered when I ordered, and now she's not even doing them at the moment. She's not taking new orders because she has so many people waiting to get theirs. So it's an amazing product, and hopefully she'll open up some spots again soon because they are really amazing.
That's perfect. That's beautiful. So I hope Owlvine and her story about her immersion into astrology has inspired you in some way, and got you a little bit interested in perhaps something that you saw on the divination list that I've asked you to open up. You know, that's a thing to do. The divination list on Wikipedia. Go through it, have a look, see if something literally like tugs at you and go, well, this is the most obscure thing I've heard. And if it is entrails, please let me know because I would love to talk to you, okay? Now, let's move on to Nina. And Nina works with crystals in a really unique way. So Nina, could you introduce your divinatory skill there, your talent, your pursuit, your passion pursuit for us, please?
Okay, so I am what you call a crystal reader, and I literally read crystals. That's how it works. So I have been into crystals since I was a little tiny thing. It's actually started with an obsession with sea glass. I used to collect it all the time when I was a kid, and then it shifted into beautiful rocks, and then eventually, I think it was my mom or something, we were passing a crystal shop, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to go look in there. Didn't know why. I found a jade necklace that I then wore. I think I was maybe 13 or 14, and I wore it all the time. I then kind of kept that a secret because I felt a little bit strange collecting crystals as a teenager. And then when I moved to Cyprus, because I'm not actually from here, but it's where I live, I began to delve into crystals like nothing I had ever before. But it was basically, how do we heal with crystals? I would buy crystals that I liked. I would work with them. And then I met a man a Bulgarian man who comes here every year. He usually comes to, we have a mind, body, and spirit kind of festival over here as well. Began to do a type of crystal reading method where you would pick 3 that you would like that you like and that attract you, and 3 that you don't. And the way that I have began to understand it is that crystals are like a metronome. So if people don't know what that is, if you play like piano, for example, it's that little tiny ticker that keeps you to the correct rhythm to play. And so crystals have different kind of metronomes, different vibrations, some fast. And one of the first thing when it's actually a that I use with clients, and a lot of people ask me, so if I use jade, let's say, does that mean money's going to start pouring out of the sky? And I'm like, well, no, not exactly. You still have to do, yes, we can work with that vibration, but we still kind of need to do the work that's in between. In the same way in spell casting, you don't just cast a spell for a new job and then sit on your couch instead of giving in your CV and asking for it, like going out to go look for a job. And so I began to realize well, actually, usually like attracts like. So what I am, I get from the world. So if I keep picking the crystals that I like, then doesn't that mean that I already have that vibration already? And I began to realize the crystals that made me feel anxious, or I was not interested, or they were ugly, were actually the crystals that my body began to crave, and I wanted them in my energy field so that I can come back into balance, and then that switches, and then I like them. And so I then began to do that for other people, and they would become the ones that they didn't like would tell me what were the things maybe that they were pressing away into the shadows that they're not willing to look at, but they need to, so that they can have all of their vibrations come back into wholeness and into balance and into harmony.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. And I say this because, and I think most of you will know what I'm talking about when I say this. Have you had a conversation with someone that goes, oh, I can't hold tektite in my hand. I can't handle it. I can't handle the energy of tektite. I hear it a lot with tektite, so I'm using that as an example. For me personally, for years and years, I couldn't hold labradorite in my hand. Now I work with labradorite fine. I had a revelation about it. And, you know, that's been really, really interesting. And now it's one of my primary spirit work stones. So that to me was quite fascinating. But I love this idea of what is lacking through stones, because stones are mineral. Our body responds to the minerals in the earth, I think, very, very strongly. I feel that way. So can you give us a few perhaps, well, can you give everybody, not just us, although we are listening, can you give everyone a little idea as to perhaps some common stones that you can work with to bring certain facets out, or some things to look out for more specifically? I'm finding it hard to word myself, but just a little tidbit to help somebody with their crystal collection, for instance, right now. Like, what could they do? Should they lay the crystals out and then really look at them, feel it with their hands, pick out one that they like and one that they don't like? And let's say, you know, how could they begin the process after that? Could they do it through journaling? Could they do it through a meditation? You know, just a little push. Just give someone a subtle little push.
Yeah. So the one thing that I say about crystals, that even before we start talking about divining with them, is that reading about them is wonderful, and there's plenty of information about them. But one of the things that I really advise is actually before even actually reading about that crystal, when you buy it, meditate with it. Because just like what the difference between what I connect a rose to being and you a rose to being, rose quartz may feel completely different to you than it does to me. And it's important through meditation to figure out what is my personal particular stone. I would, if you want to do it in a certain way, I would wake up in the morning, let's say I've started fresh and I pick one that I like, one that I don't like. And so let's say if I pick rose quartz for the one that I like, you literally take the information that you know about rose quartz. So we know that it's connected to our heart chakra, and it is a heart healer. And so we know that this side of us is in balance. Our heart chakra is open, let's say, and that's wonderful and that's great. Then let's say I pick up hematite and it's something that I don't like. So we know that hematite is something that is very grounding, and actually these two together begin to work together. So okay, great, my heart is open and I'm embracing everyone, but also, is that love, let's say, is it grounded? Am I discerning before I give my love to anybody that I see? Am I protective in a loving way? Am I protective of the energy that I give out? And you just begin to journal about those things. And the thing with crystals, in the same way that, let's say, when you do a tarot spread, is that it very quickly, by decisions that you can make, you may not pick that crystal by the end of the day anymore. But the very fact that you have that the crystal, let's say, that you don't like in your presence, you're already aligning with that vibration.
Well, that is very, very interesting. I'm not sure that I've ever heard crystal reading in that particular way, so I'm really chuffed that you've shared that little bit of awesomeness with us. Allorah, Chase, do you have any questions that you would like to ask either of these two remarkable people?
I feel like I was sitting here trying to be like, okay, like I have so many questions to ask you, and then like you just were both of you were just so eloquent in the way that you presented you answered all of my questions. Like, you both are just endlessly fascinating and so well spoken. So I loved it. Love it. Love it.
Well, I really, really enjoy Owlvine's videos because her personality is just so great. So when I'm sitting there watching them, I'm just like, oh. And plus, like, I love Australian accents. So I could listen to you.
She's like a warm hug. Literally. She really is.
Well, but I could listen to you guys read the dictionary or the telephone book and be completely like, it doesn't make any difference. So the only thing that I guess wanted to ask, I guess, was, Nina, how long have you been on YouTube? Or how long have you been around now? I mean, because I'm not sure.
On YouTube or in general?
No. within the
on YouTube, it's 2 months, 3 months. I'm really new. So still in that new category.
Yeah, but I just want to tell you, because I know how old you are, because you told me, but my God, you are well-spoken and really knowledgeable and connected for how young you are. Like, I'm blown away, kind of. I don't know. I'm
a little bit blown away as well, I must admit.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, I'm quietly impressed. I genuinely am. And Chase has pulled up a question here from one of our beautiful subscribers, and it's from Robert Davies. And this is for you, Nina, particularly. So it reads, how would you start a crystal collection? Same way you pick from your collection already? Or same way you pick for your collection already? Perhaps that's what is meant.
Okay. Things myth, I'm not sure if that's what you would call it, but I'm sure that you've gone into a crystal shop and seen like that one person that uses it. I mean, if usually the dominant hand, let's say, is the right hand, and they're hovering over the crystals trying to see like which one they are attracted to. And actually most of the time that's not the correct method to pick a crystal if you want to do it blindly, because our dominant hand is our dominant hand holds masculine traits, like divine masculine traits, and the recessive hand, is that what you would call it? Yeah, would be our divine feminine hand. And so actually we know that in the divine feminine quality this is the hand that we receive with. So you would receive energy with your right hand, with your recessive hand, and not your dominant hand. So actually you would want to do it the other way. And you can even go into the store and do exactly the same way, like in the same way that you would pick from your collection, pick 3 that you don't like and 3 that you like. And then okay, well, we've begun a collection there of things that I know I have in my system, and 3 that I need to bring back into balance.
I'm just gonna interject real quick, because everybody has seen me do this, but I think everybody's seen me do this on broadcast. If you guys have ever heard me say, I want you to shuffle and then the cards with your left hand and then pick them back up with your left hand type thing, that's because left hand, non-dominant hand, is also connected to the subconscious, receptive hand, divine feminine, all that. Same concept. So I totally get that.
Yeah. So that's what I all kinds of where you have to pick an energy and feel out an energy. I think the best way is to do it with your non-dominant hand, because that's where we are receiving energy. Even when we're meditating, let's say with a crystal, to have it in your right hand and then close it over with your left hand would be the best way to understand what energy it has and how that connects with your body.
That is it. It's also a way to subtly check out whether somebody is a natural intuitive. And I'm not talking about grown-ups here. I'm talking about children. If you see how children can be quite ambidextrous in their little pursuits. I have 2 daughters and a son, and I noticed that one of my children consistently goes out and brushes the energy of something. She doesn't even know why she does it. She's only 2. but she will go like this, and she always does it with her left hand. And I know that she is a right-hander. All my children are right-handed, but there is just a little something. So there's this natural intuitive aspect trying to come out and feel and read the world. And children are really great to watch for that kind of thing, but then adults as well, teenagers who are on the cusp of believing and not believing, who are trying to find themselves, who are all angsty and full of hormones, and they too will display this little either on or off kind of effect. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing to watch. It helps to deepen the joy of reading body language. I love to read people. I like to sit in cafes and watch people go past. Like, I love to people watch. And I generally get a great understanding just by mannerisms of what type of person that is, to the point where I have a physical reaction like, oh, you're hard to handle. I can just see it. The way you're moving makes you a very difficult individual. And then I take that a bit further, and I can read the story of that person. If I focus in on one person, I know I could tell you just about everything that I think I know about that person. It just comes pouring out like water. I'm like, oh, you're my subject today. And it will come pouring out. And they literally will spend 10 seconds just walking past me. And I'm like, I have everything I need to know about you now. I have everything. And they can go on their little merry way.
Is that people-mancy? Like, is that a thing? Human-mancy? Like, what do you call that?
I would call it being energetically nosy, actually. I would call it crossing a few ethical lines, actually.
I do it all the time. I freaking love it.
Yeah.
I'm so intuitive when it comes to other people's energy. And like, I can just, like Avalon was saying, like, I can just tell what kind of person you are walking into the cafe doors. I'm like, ooh, you are not a nice person. I can just see that. I see you ugly.
Yep, I know those ones as well. And I find that bitch energy, and this is just, I'm not trying to be funny, I'm just choosing the word bitch, but you know what I mean, difficult people, like really difficult people. I find that bitch energy really, really easy to read. And I find the subtle hermit really easy to read. I find the devious really easy to read. I'll be like, oh, you're a deviant. Like, I can feel it. Like, it's a sensation that washes over. And it's not pleasant. It's not a pleasant sensation. But then again, it only lasts for 5 or 10 seconds, you know, and then they're on their way. And I'm like, oh, we cannot be friends. We're not going to be friends. But
if I sense that sort of coyote energy in somebody, I'm like, oh, and we're done. That's it. I'm out.
Is that what it's called? Oh, let's get to Chase then, because he's throwing his animal knowledge in there. So,
can I just add in one piece of advice for the person who asked the question? By the way, 2 crystals, just the crystal healing, not just for reading. 2 really good kinds of crystals to have is either one kind of white, clear crystal and one black. Because black, dark crystals, earthy crystals connect to our root chakra, and then usually white crystals and clear crystals connect to our crown chakra. And so already between one to the other, we have a complete balanced connection between the 2. And in the same way that you would hold between your dominant hand and your non-dominant hand. So you would receive energy from source, your spirit guide, the earth, whatever that it is, through your white crystal, and you would hold it in one hand. And then you can hold your dark crystal in your right, and you would actually be, if you feel overwhelmed, let's say, and you have too much scattered energy, you can give that energy to the earth, and basically, so you're giving away the energy that you no longer need and receiving replenished energy from whatever that it is that you work with that has a higher vibration. Okay, that's my little 2 cents. I'm done.
Oh, thank you. And that's good. That's good advice. That's definitely good. You got to balance those polarities out. Very, very, very good. How are you going, Owlvine, there for time? Do you have to scoot off, or you've got a couple more minutes? Anything else that you might like to add?
Yeah. I've got 10 minutes. I can't think of anything else I'd like to add right now. So I'm happy to just sit here and listen for 10 minutes.
It's going to be fun. So let's get to coyote. Let's talk about this coyote energy that you just like whipped out. So I said devious person. And he's like, what I do with those coyote people. And I'm like, that will stay with me forever now. Thank you for the education. And can you tell us how you do what you do? How do you do it? Like, how to begin this? And are you really do you really only connect with North American types of animals? or can you stretch that out to the crocodilus downtown?
I can stretch that out to pretty much any animal in existence. And that's not to say that I know every single animal on the face of the planet. You know, there's 9 million, thousand, trillion different kinds of animals. And so to sit here and say that I know them all would just be stupid. But I mean, there are, you know, I am most comfortable with the animals, obviously, that are around me, you know, the ones that I have seen and made eye contact with and those kinds of things. But no, it doesn't have to be, because again, you know, it started with this whole conversation of saying we're all this a singular stream of consciousness. And so, and I, you know, I use those terms like I'm a giant hippie, but I genuinely do believe that we all come back to the same line of energy. And so I think that if we keep that in mind, we have that in mind, that it is really easy for me in my practice, you know, speaking particularly with animals. I think it's easy to connect with an animal energy if we can just remember that single fact that we are a single line of energy. So for me, it kind of started, animals came to me first, and they came to me in dreams. That's where all of this started, was in my dream world. And I started having some very lucid dreams at a very young age, and they started visiting me in ways that were very child friendly. And then as I started to get into my teen years, like, they became really, really visceral and real and scary. And like the messages sort of changed. Like, now you're growing up. Now you can like actually see what this is. And I would have dreams where I was getting chased by wolves, and I would have dreams where I was getting eaten by an eagle, and you know, those kinds of very visceral, real. And again, my dreams are super, super lucid. I wish that I could share with you guys how lucid my dreams are, because it is like, it's me in them. I am there. And so it has always been this sort of, and it's something that I, like you were talking about earlier, it's a perfect example. You know, when you're younger, you run from it all because you don't understand it. And we have that bug of fear that comes into us. And we're like, I don't understand it, so I'm going to run from it. And I'm going to hate it. And I don't want anything to do with it, because that's just what people do. And so I ran from it for a super long time. And then it was about probably my young 20s that I realized that they were trying just to tell me something. They just really wanted me to connect with them, because they wanted to send messages to me. And for some reason, why I don't know whether it's my ancestors or whether it's, you know, for a different reason. I don't know these things, but like, they chose me. I am the chosen one to receive these messages. And not to say that in like a egotistical way. I'm not the only one. Everybody can tap into this. It's not just, you know, something for the chosen few, but for me and my experience, it was not me that dove into it. They dove to me first. And so, you know, as we sort of developed through my 20s, and then I got to go through this really cool experience where I moved to the OKLA and connected with my tribe, and I finally got to meet some other Choctaws and go through a ritual and a ceremony with a tribal leader and really find what my animal totems were. And it was like the most pivotal moment, because once I really put a name to those energies, and those energies finally had a face, and like, we communicate, me and my animals, every single day, somehow, some way. I was reading a book, and I think I've talked about this on this live chat before. If I have, stop me. But I was reading a book about a man who was going through the process of becoming an actual shaman. And that will be never a word that I use to describe myself, because that is a title that is not just, you can't call yourself one. That's something that is sort of earned and given to you, and that it carries a lot of weight. And so would I love to be a shaman? That'd be dope as shit. But, you know, I'm not there. I'm just a human in my spiritual practice, and, you know, holding space for me and my own and my active totem. And anyway, and so I got to go through this really cool experience, and you know, you really have just this super, super intense bond with some really good animal energy. And, you know, at the end of the day, I often wonder, because again, I go back to this idea like of a singular line of energy that we all come back to. Like, is it really the animal energy themselves, or is it another form of energy that just has communicated with me through the guise of animals? You know, like, is this something bigger? Is this ancients trying to talk to me? Is this a dead grandparent, or, you know, like, what is it actually? And so I'm in the middle of discovering all that and figuring all that out, and really, you know, and I'm 31 and I'm still in the middle of figuring it all out, and that's totally cool, man. Like, we don't ever have to be done. We're never going to be done. And it's important that we keep exploring. We have to keep exploring. We have to keep asking questions and keep learning. And yeah, I just could keep rambling, but I'm not. So that's me.
I love that. I love that.
He said something that wait, I want to ask Chase a question, because he said something that sparked my memory. The same fear of mice. And because when I was a little girl, when I was 4 or 5 years old, I used to have dreams where hundreds of them were eating me in my bed. I don't know where this came from. I had never seen a mouse. I had never watched anything on TV. So what do mice
The craft.
mean?
Right. So
It's like, what?
I mean, that's a really strong approach by my synergy. So mouse is about really breaking down and scrutinizing something. So if we look at the world, right? If we really break down and we really, you know, get behind the mask of a mouse, and we look through a mouse's eyes, the world is huge. And so, like, how do we manage that as a little mouse? The world is ginormous. And so it's all about scrutiny, and it's all about taking big pieces and breaking them down into smaller pieces that we can manage and that we can carry with us back home. And that's what mice do. When they find a giant piece of bread that, you know, is somebody left on the ground, well, that's lunch. They can't take it all back. So what they do is they take it back in pieces that they can manage. So the biggest medicine, the biggest lesson that we can learn from mouse is that nothing is ever too big for us if we can just break it down and really look at it from a manageable standpoint. And it's kind of like that stereotypical trainer talk too, of, you know, if you get a client and that client is like, okay, I'm gonna go on an 800-calorie diet and I'm gonna lose 20 pounds by next Saturday. You're like, no, you're not. That's not. We have to break this down into more manageable pieces. We have to change one piece at a time, because we're looking at, you know, long-term change and long-term differences. If we try to take it on as it is as a whole piece, then we're just setting ourselves up to fail. So it's important to look at the world as a mouse sometimes, so that we can break things down and manage them how we need to.
That's super interesting, because it used to be a recurring.
That is interesting. That's very interesting.
That is very interesting. That is. I had to laugh though, because mice is about scrutiny, he said. Like, I don't even need to explain that. Like, like, damn.
Yes, indeed it is. Indeed it is.
Oh, okay. So just for shits and giggles, let's talk about an animal that all of us. Let's just pick one animal that is very present in our lives, whether in an annoying way or whether in an actual way, like an actual thing. It's an actual thing. Or maybe even like the last animal that you actively saw and paid attention to. For me, it was, well, the last animal that I saw was the fly, which I think is like the totem animal of Australia.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call a fly a totem animal. Flies are really complicated too. Was it you, Allorah, that asked me what the meaning of fly was? Was that you? Somebody reached out to me. I can't remember last week about the meaning of fly. Somebody did last week, and it's.
Ant was the last one that I asked you about, and you were like, "Oh, patience."
Yes, patience. Ant is patience. But I get asked so many questions. Like every day, people reach out to me, and I don't hate it. I love it, but I lose track of who all has asked me what, because I get at least one question every day. Somebody will reach out to me on social media and be like, "What does this animal mean?" And it's fine. Again, I love it. But you know, like we're talking like insects that come in multitudes. They're like a fly. They're super common. It is hard to really what's the word I'm looking for? To really sort out what is actually a message and what is actually just a freaking housefly
Yeah.
living in a house, bugging the shit out of you. You know, like you have to, like we named it a housefly. It's where it's supposed to be. It's in a house. So it is hard to measure something like that. What is an actual message?
So that's important. That's important to consider too, because if somebody came up to me, you know, in a mystical sense and said, "Hey, you know, tell me about an animal that is prominent in your life," I would say the fly, the gecko, the cockroach, and the ant. Like, they're the four that I see in my life all of the time. They live in my house, so I see them all of the time. I don't ever take any mystical sort of something or other from it. But what I do is, because I live very close to the beach, this is the time where crocodiles are on the migration. And you start hearing everybody talking about crocodiles, to the point where you're like, okay, if you're going to go in the water, you have to have a couple of people on the stand to croc spot for you if you're going to go for a swim. So it's crocodile season. Like, crocodiles are very prominent.
Right.
And that's a prominent thing. So give me one key word to go with the crocodile. Just one. Something
death.
free and easy.
No.
Mortal doom.
I feel like I'm going to give you this word, and then you're going to want me to explain it. So the biggest keyword, and I'm stealing this word, it's the best word that I know to come with crocodile. I'm going to steal it straight out of the shaman wisdom cards, and that is integration. It is about, again, you said one word, but I'm going to go ahead and then explain it. So it is all about integrating things a piece at a time. The biggest lesson you can learn from a crocodile is that the crocodile is the most alert and on his A game when the only thing that he has above water are his eyeballs. So when we feel like that we're drowning, and you know we're literally like we're sinking in our own shit, you know, we have to remember the lesson from crocodile is that he's underwater with his eyeballs. You know, the only thing he has above the water is his eyeballs. So, and he's doing just fine. That's when he's on his A game. So it's about taking, kind of like we were just talking about with mouse. We take all those things that we broke apart with mouse into manageable bits, and then we start integrating them bit by bit into our life until we build up into the next thing. You know, we've taken the big thing, broken it down, and now we've built it back up into this beautiful construct of influence and of confidence and of energy into our lives that is now working for us and working for us. So integration.
That actually makes perfect sense for the population of Cairns as a whole. Actually, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else got a very prominent animal in their life at this very moment in time? Anyone's husband embodying a wife or husband embodying a particular someone? He is such a coyote.
Why do you got to pick on husbands? Why?
Because I'm looking at 3 women now.
Solid. I'm always outnumbered, aren't I? Always.
And I happen to know that all 3 have male partners. I'm not stereotyping. These are things that I know. I know these things.
Yes, indeed. Little old single and little over me over here.
Oh, well, you know, shave. Maybe shave for a day.
Maybe start by showering and shaving. It's the weirdest thing. Too much that helps.
Maybe you don't let yourself go to where you have like.
When you don't look homeless, people think you're pretty. It's weird. Weird.
Oh my god!
Spray and just.
Can you please dye your beard a different color just before you shave it? Just dye it a different color so that we can.
That's not happening.
Fun time. Like, look, Avalon agrees that it could be a light lavender purple. Come on.
Not happening. No, that's not happening. No.
Such a party pooper, honestly.
Party pooper. He poops at the parties. Darn it.
What if it raised money? That would be
fun.
I love that rain money. Rain some money.
What?
You said rain money?
Raise some money.
Ugh. I thought he said he was going to rain money. Much easier. You just grab it.
Owlvine or Nina, do you guys have animals that come into your life or have come into your life recently?
Yeah, or for ages actually, but especially at the moment. But again, this is a natural thing, I think, for the area. But like, oh my god, spiders, like everywhere. I had one abseiling, no joke, this tiny little thing off my forehead, like literally my third the other day. Like, what the hell? They're everywhere. So yeah, spider, always spider.
Spider's a great energy. You know, and we could take spider in a lot of different directions too. There's a lot of lessons to go with spider because we you know, the biggest energy that we put with spider is a creator and a weaver, and so not only does she create, but she creates well. She creates a you know, a web that is, you know, perfectly geometric and is very efficient at doing what it needs to do at catching food. And so, you know, we can take that, obviously, that energy into our life, and we can create something that will work for us. And I feel like all these animals are going together into one giant story. We can create something that's going to work for us and, you know, work for our benefit. But we also have to take the lesson of spider that the spider is really self-sufficient. Because of the way that it lives its life and makes its web. And so it is a really big story of being independent and not relying on somebody to give you your basic needs. We can provide ourselves with our own food. We can provide ourselves with our own money. We can provide ourselves with our own with our own things to learn and to help ourselves grow. And so it's about being self-nourishing and just really, really finding our independent self.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. All right. On that note, that was amazing. I love you guys. I have to go. I'm 5 minutes late now.
Oh, don't be late. Don't be late.
I want to stay and like listen and be here.
Well, thank you so much, Owlvine, for joining us. It was such a joy to have you talk about astrology and your passions. And you can find more about Avalon.
We are the same.
You can find more about Owlvine. These names, people, these names. You can't keep doing it. On her channel, she is a massive witchy YouTuber, and she has such amazing content. She's very heart-centered in how she delivers that content. She's a bit of no bullshit, and she walks you through the motions. Owlvine is one of those rare people that you can watch sort of almost from the start of her path, where she has just discovered certain aspects of herself and her witchy self, and she experiments right in front of you, and she talks about what she's experimenting with, what she's journaling, what she's sort of up to, and you can see a natural progression there. And that's, I think, why people are so drawn to her fire, is because it's relatable. And that's probably one of the better facets of who she is on a superficial level. And then there is so much more just behind the scenes that we get to see ourselves. So, Owlvine,
you.
Thanks so much for joining us. Go and pick up your little man, and he'll be waiting at the front gate going, "Mommy forgot me."
Honestly, he'll probably be playing on the playground for like another 40 minutes. But just in case, I got to.
Thank you so much. Come back again soon.
I will. Oh, can I get out of this? How do I get out of this? There it is. All right, bye.
See ya. Oh, beautiful. What a joy. What an absolute joy to have her.
I just need to remind people that you are actually not the Leo, or we're not the Leo in that situation. Say your own name.
I know.
You know what? For us YouTubers, it is habit. Okay, we get on a video, and we at the end of our videos, we're like, if you want to subscribe more to Chase 2 Ls, then hit the link below and hit the like button and all those things. It's just natural. It's natural.
It's a true thing. It's a true thing. The names are a thing, guys. You know what I mean? That's why I said, oh, the names. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. Well, Nina, we have some questions here for you before we wrap up our show. They've been sort of sitting off to the side here. So how about we go through these little questions? They're mostly crystal questions. And then, guys, if there's anything else that you would like to add before we finish up, by all means, like, do that. But right now we have another question from Robert Davies. wait, no, I've already read that one. We've got a question from Ali Marie. There is a particular crystal in my collection that feels wrong on many levels. What do you recommend? Also, it feels wrong on many days. I'm reading it now. Yeah, sorry. Feels wrong on many days. What do you recommend?
Well, I would recommend actually to work with it a lot. So, for example, I have here a choco lava stone. So it's actually not a crystal. It's a type of it's lava that's been solidified. And I know a lot of people who have a very hard time working with this stone. And I would advise people to work with it for that very reason. This stone, for example, is extremely grounding. Grounding in the sense not just how we appear to other people in our outside world, but how grounding from the inside, that we know that we are sturdy. And for a lot of people, it's actually it's not always so simple to ground and trust and feel safe in the bodies that we live in and the life that we live in. And so the advice in that case, I would work with it. So whatever that it is, spend time working with it, meditate with it, learn about it, see how it reflects. Let's say if you are somebody who does shadow work, how do the two relate? Can you see what you push aside that reflects in that stone? And how will we now you can use it, meditate with it, have it around, learn about it, the usual kind of stuff.
Perfect. We've got a couple more here. Are there crystals for specific illnesses, for instance type 1 diabetes?
Yes, there are. I am actually not so the thing about crystals, because there's so many of them out there and there's so many facets to crystals, just like everything, like tarot, there's so much to learn. And so that is part of the learning process. I'm still learning about that. But on the top of my head, I can hematite is what comes to me, because hematite is known as a stone. It's usually like a reddish color when it starts to form, or if it infuses into something else, and it usually represents lifeblood or bloodstone. Literally, it is in the name. And so these reflect things with our blood and cholesterol in our blood. So those are two things that I would look working with.
Interesting.
And forewarning, it's not a piece of advice to shut out real life medication. If you need to use it, please do use it. It's just a way to help you in addition. It may relieve some pain or whatever extra symptoms need relieving. Just, yeah, do the Western medicine stuff first, basically.
Perfect. So there's a wonderful world of crystals out there. And if anybody would like to know any great crystal books, Melody, The Kaleidoscope of Crystals, Judy Hall does one. Hibiscus Moon has heaps of crystal information out there. Crystal Riser on YouTube is another really great one. She'll take you through and break down on YouTube what she feels for each crystal. She'll give you a little way to connect with them. There are many resources out there for crystals, and it's something that is worth having at least one resource. If you're a crystal lover, if you have crystals in any capacity, then at least have one really good crystal resource book, because eventually, and I know this for myself, my interest in stones has ebbed and flowed over the years. I've had massive collections and then traveled and gone down to tiny little collections. I've got another massive collection, and I just go backwards and forwards with it. Then I'm interested in using it medicinally. I'm interested in using it to make elixirs. Now I couldn't give a fuck about those things. I'm interested in placing them in crystal grids. That's what I'm doing right now, and charging moon water and things of that nature. So it's just really great to have resources on these types of things at your disposal. So,
I think Google is also always your best. Like, there are many websites that you can use, and on Google, I would say read more than one kind of reference, because there's always some places that give you that extra little bit of information. So just read, find out what works for you. As I said before, meditate. You may have a different association to something than I would, and if that works for you, that's amazing.
That's perfect. Now, Chase, Allorah, anything that you would like to add for tonight's broadcast before we call it a night / day / 5 o'clock in the morning?
Just to put up a STW Facebook page, because we want to hear from you guys about what kind of content you want to see on the show, because like tonight we did non-cartomancey divination and stuff, and I know Avalon wants to get into some witchier content on some episodes, so I'm gonna put up a poll and you guys can go through and click on things topics you'd like to see us cover. Chase?
I particularly loved tonight's conversation. Big fan of, I just really like to know, it's really weird, it's gonna make me sound moderately creepy, I think, but like I just really like to know what other people are doing and what other people are into. And I really just love, because in that, just even hearing the little tidbits that I was talking, or that we were discussing tonight, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I can somehow incorporate that into what I'm doing. Maybe I can incorporate that into what I'm doing. I had that thought in my head a lot. And just hearing about, I just really like to hear what other people are doing. And, I love community and talking and doing all those things, especially tonight. So thank you. I appreciate it.
That's exactly right. We've had a ton of fun today. And I think that we could almost do this same passion pursuit live stream again in a couple of weeks' time, because we've all looked at the Wikipedia list, haven't we? You will see that there's still tons more to explore. There are still tons of people. In fact, it would be absolutely bitchin' if one of the people watching tonight had a look at that list, found something that they love, worked on it a little bit, and then by the time we do our next call out for our next passion pursuits live chat, you respond to it saying, I was inspired by this, I looked into it, I'm now researching this. And we would like to talk to you. So somebody get on board with that. Make sure you have a webcam. Make sure you have a smartphone of some description. The what is it called? The Google Hangouts app. It's a thing. It's a thing, right? And before I sign off, I just wanted to say that we do a lot of tarot on this channel. We do a lot of tarot. We talk a lot about tarot. We card sling. Today's the perhaps the first time that all three of us have been, in a live stream and we haven't slung any cards. And there's a little something to that as well, because while many people use tarot for divination, tarot is not necessarily a divinatory tool to everybody. Tarot can be a life mapping tool. It can be a method of self-empowerment. It can be a means of finding clarity through emotional grounding and a deeper understanding of the situation, because you've opened up your perspective. And there's so much beauty in tarot. There is a mystical side to tarot that, believe it or not, you can ignore if you want to and still be an incredible reader. The thing is, we don't ignore that. We, as you know, are weirdly, wildly mystical people. We are floating digital mystics. We really are. And we choose to work with the tarot in a deeply spiritual sense. And that deeply spiritual sense stems from our various passion pursuits, our various modalities, our various traditions, our various spiritual paths as a whole. And so while tarot is one of those amazing tools that you can absolutely divine with, and I'm sure we all do on the sneaky, even if we don't say it out loud, it is not something that you necessarily have to do. And I guess that's the thing with astrology too. You don't have to use astrology as a divinatory tool, and you don't have to use crystals as a divinatory tool. The fact of the matter is, if you pay attention to your surroundings, you can divine with anything. And then you can divine with nothing if you don't feel like it, Everything is there speaking to you. Everything is kinetic energy. Protons, neutrons, and electrons all spinning in a ball or creating the perception of mass. It's all energy. Your energy can talk to that energy if it wants to. If you think this is possible, I can, or better yet, I feel like it today because I've had my coffee and I'm in the mood, then go for it. There's a little something. So I'm going to say goodbye to all you beautiful people. I'm going to let everybody say their farewells. Thank you so much for joining us. As per usual, we love having you here. We love talking to you. We love taking your questions. I'm sorry if we did miss a couple of questions. There was a lot of chatter going on around today, around the chat streams. So hopefully we get to it next time. And I'm wishing you so much love, luck, peace, and joy. So, mwah. Allorah.
Why has it always got to be me? No. I wanted to thank everybody who attended the broadcast and joined us tonight, because we have been absent and taking a break because our lives are just all over the place. People are moving across the friggin' continents, and people are going to weddings and doing tarot decks and oracle decks, and everybody's everywhere. So hopefully we'll get a little bit more consistency into the new year. So thanks for sticking with us and believing in us and enjoying our show. And Chase?
Yeah, just to repeat all that, thank you guys so much from the bottom of our hearts for supporting us. Because you guys are here, we get to do what we do, and we are super passionate about what we do, and we love getting together and having these broadcasts, having these discussions. And again, you are like the most amazing audience and just the best support. I've said it a lot today, but you guys really are just support as fuck, and I appreciate that immensely. And I love you to the ends of the earth. Like I always say, I'm sending all my loving energy your way, and I hope you guys will go out and have a phenomenal week. Love you guys.
And Nina, tell people where they can find you, please, and say your farewells as well.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at Pantarehea. So that's ANTARHEA, and then the same on YouTube. And there's like my Facebook and my work Tumblr / website all down below. I think Allorah linked all of it beforehand. Allorah, Avalon, and Chase, thank you so much for having me. You guys actually were 3 of the main people who inspired me to start a YouTube channel. And I know that I'm a beginner, some cases a beginner witch, but I just wanted to share that beginner journey with all these beautiful people. And yeah, just thank you so much for having me, and it was a pleasure to talk about something that I love very much, which is crystals. And have a lovely morning, evening, afternoon, if you're watching at 5 a.m. with me. Yeah, all of it.
Oh, thank you so much, Nina. We absolutely loved having you. We absolutely loved having Owlvine. We do need to get more of these beautiful people on our live cast so we can share some of the absolutely brilliant, dynamic portions of our community. These people that are in the chat right now will potentially one day be here, and we can talk to you in person, and it will be amazing. So all right, folks, well, it's going to end up here. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to check out all of our social media links, our blog, which is off the hook at the moment because some people, I'm not going to name any names here, Allorah, but some people have been writing some articles that have been reblogged so many freaking times because they are amazeballs. And yes, I did say amazeballs. So that is us from Spread the Switches. That is it. That is it from Spread the Switches. We will talk to you soon.